I'm Kevin Davis. This is the Catholic Family Podcast. We're also going to be published over on The Traditionalist. So thank you for watching wherever you are watching on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, wherever it may be. And I'm happy to be joined by Father Stephen McKenna. It's been a long time. It's been far too long. It's great to see Father, as always, coming on to talk about difficult topics. That's what he's best at. He does the dirty work so that other priests don't have to. So we always greatly appreciate Father McKenna coming on and really tackling tough topics. And today is another tough topic that is obviously very, very much in the news, and that is I suppose you could call it the war of Israel versus Iran. Um, I think it's a war. Now the question is America going to join it? We are on the tip of that, of going over the edge into war on the
Mhm.
side of Israel against Iran, and there's a lot of things to be said about that, a lot of speculation, a lot of opinions. We'll see what we get to. I think Father is here hopefully to tell us a bit about, the morality of war, what is the situation in general, and to give his own thoughts on the matter. So Father, again, it's always a pleasure to have you. And I guess I'll just throw it to you. I mean, what are your immediate thoughts? I mean, we talked about this a couple months ago, similar topic with Israel continuing to bomb Palestine. So it's kind of similar. Do you find this to be kind of the same case, or what are the nuances here?
Yeah, so thanks for having me back, Kevin. This is great to be with you. And yeah, some of it definitely is same idea. You know, we rinse and repeat that concept of justified war and this sort of vague notion that maybe somehow they might get a nuclear weapon and then might use it against somebody. There's zero justification for engaging in warfare. It's especially from a moral standpoint from the church, which is very specific about what is necessary for a just war to be fought, and this doesn't come even remotely close to it. But it's also, I think, that is a facade as well as to why Israel attacked. I don't think it has. They've. It bears noting that this cry for that Iran is just days away from having a nuclear weapon, and we have to act. Has been being that war drum's been being beaten for decades
I,
now.
I think I just saw a video of Netanyahu. I think it was in 1997. I could be wrong about the date. I think it was 1997. He was saying just that they are what I think he said 30 days away from having nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, as you say, Father, decades they've been saying this.
Decades, exactly. And moreover, it's I mean, even if they were, I mean, how hypocritical is it? You know, the United States and Israel, two countries which have developed their own nuclear program and their own nuclear weapons, and who would not let anybody, any other country, dictate to them whether or not they can have one and how they can use it or whatever. That is somehow, some way, how can they stand on their moral high box and say we can do it, but you cannot be trusted to do this? Especially when you think about the fact that there's only one country out there that can't say, well, at least we've never used nuclear weapons on other countries, and
Yeah.
that's us. That's the United States. So we have used it in warfare, and so the idea that we can stand on a moral soapbox is just absurd. And then on top of it, we're meant to believe that, again, this time, even though it's the boy who cried wolf, even though you have Netanyahu himself repeating the same thing of Iran's this close to getting the bomb for now almost 30 years. Uh, in addition to whomever else would have said it even longer, that now we're supposed to believe him all of a sudden that he's true. The people who just got done, attempting to genocide an entire different society nearby with them, and their moral outrage at, oh, they're launching bombs on civilian targets. It's like, that's all you've done. That's all you
Yeah.
do is destroy civilian targets. Like, these are the same people who say we have to destroy hospitals because they might have, Hamas underneath them in the basement somewhere, fighters hiding underneath the hospital. So we'll just, blow the whole thing down. Or it's it's laughable that and so many people follow along with it. What's even more laughable about it is that, or I shouldn't say laughable. That's roughly a really bad way to think of it. Not, I mean it, figuratively laughable. That it is an addition. That this is, if you step back and look at it, it is exactly what it is. This is regime change. Time for regime change, and it's not our first time doing so, and not our first time doing so with Iran.
No, right,
So
and not or in the Middle East, but as you say, Father, not even just Iran,
yeah,
and I think it's. Sorry, I'll let you continue. Just real quickly. I just think it's interesting again that this is something that continues on and on and on. And I think that regime change is not even the biggest issue. I think the weird, creepy Zionistic notes on it are something we'll probably cover later in this podcast, because I think that's what to me is
yeah,
even the creepier part of this. That it's not just trying to bring in the leadership that they want, which the U.S. has done continuously in the Middle East and ruined
yes,
nations over and over again. This one even has that note of weird end times type Zionism, but we can cover that in a bit. Sorry if you want to continue your thought about that, Father.
well, yeah, I was just going to say that, for the listeners' sake, the history of that regime change that's come through. That this is at least the third time for the Persian people that we've done this to them. When you go back, when you arrive at in 1953, Iran elected a prime minister. I'll butcher his name, but Mohammad Mossadegh, and he was uh, very much um, he was very much very like Western involved. He wanted to modernize Iran, and sorry, um, it was no, it was the oops, yeah. So he was brought in and democratically elected, and he and then at a certain point he wanted to take control of the country's oil, which was at that point in time run by the British. The British had control over the country's oil, and so what happens is that when he wants to use the country, Iran's own natural resources for their own use, the British government teams up with the American government, the CIA, and they overthrow the and orchestrate a coup, and they overthrow the elected leader of Iran and install the um, the Shah into Iranian power. And this new and so and this is something that's not secret. This is something that has come out in their own the government files that of the freedom of information type of things, and that was released. It was released even under the Obama administration that this is what took place. And but then what they ended up with the Shah was that for a while the idea was he was going to bring it into this sort of very Western minded, advanced uh, Arab nation where they would be very progressive and work to being even somewhat successful in all of this. But then what he again also eventually got his hands on the oil because and so now this man who was put in by the U.S. had wanted to make Iran truly prosperous and compete with the West by taking the petroleum products and making plastics. And so, and in doing this, it was going to be offensive to the major financial hitters, these globalists and elitists, and because now what they didn't want, they wanted Iran to be pro-Western, but they didn't want it to be actually powerful and influential,
Hmm.
and being able to and if they were able to be the world's greatest plastic producer, then that would change the game, very much in a power and finance way. And so through massive involvement of funding and influence from the United States, a rebel faction was raised up, and this faction came in and they kidnapped the. This is in the 1970s. This is when the Iranian hostage crisis took place. They kidnapped 52 Americans, held them in the embassy for 444 days. And then it was during this time that also not only was that these rebels, these students who did the capturing, they were part of the rebel force, but it was also that it was a deal was made behind the scenes with a couple of people who we would later get to know, which was William Casey and George H.W. Bush. They made a deal with the rebel faction to ensure that no matter what type of diplomatic work Jimmy Carter tried to do, that they wouldn't release the hostages because because of the fact that it would be good for the election of Ronald Reagan that Carter seemed inept in getting the hostages released. And so they made a back channel deal, and William Casey was to become Ronald Reagan's head of the CIA, and of course George H.W. Bush, who once was the head of the CIA, would become vice president, and then later president after Reagan. And so they made a back channel deal that the hostages weren't released until just after the election had taken place.
I just imagine that phone call with the Iranians. They're talking with the Americans, like, you want us to keep the hostages?
Yeah.
Can you repeat that? You want us to what? You want us to keep them?
Crazy. Please, yeah. But that was the whole thing. It was to bring in, and that's what they did. Then they brought in, the form of government that we have now, which is, an Islamic theocracy, fundamental Islamic theocracy to rule, because the idea being that they didn't want, in that way it would roll back the hands of time. It would bring Iran back sort of into like the Stone Age in a sense, and they wouldn't be upsetting the apple cart as to what's going on. And that is where we've been, since the 80s. But now, again, what do you see with modern Iran? You start to see them, again, being major players in oil production. They are developing their own nuclear program for power, and they are they've developed a legitimate adversarial military force over in the Middle East. They're gaining ways of power, and well, again, now it's time for regime change. We can't have that go on. We need something to be, who knows, probably more pro-Western. I mean, it's not Iran specific. It's just the United States and Israel too, but especially the United States. How many times do you see that we deal with the problem now by creating a problem for tomorrow? And that's we happen with Iraq. You remove Saddam, you get ISIS. You had in Afghanistan where you remove you fight against you arm the people against the Russians, and then you end up with the Taliban, and then you then you go to war with the Taliban, and then you create a power vacuum, and then Taliban takes over the entire country. You do it with Libya. You do it with, which Libya is in a civil war right now because of the Gaddafi power vacuum that's created by by the U.S. We do this again and again and again and again. And so it's not anything new that is happening here. And so that's where we are with kind of how we get here. As to the ultimate reasons why they're doing it, I don't know what it is, but I almost guarantee it's not a nuclear weapon. That's the one thing
Yeah.
that I mean, Tulsi Gabbard
Yeah.
was on, it was in front of, I think in front of Congress in March, and where she said that according to uh, all of the intelligence that we have as the United States, that while Iran continues to enrich nuclear materials, that there's no evidence that they are working towards trying to build a nuclear weapon. So from March, where the head of the of of all of the intelligence agencies for the United States says that there is no evidence of them working towards a bomb, to May and beginning of June, where Netanyahu is saying that we absolutely know that they are days away from having a bomb, to then launching preemptively missile strikes on Iran to try to destroy whatever, and and then realizing, and then now trying to get the United States to join in. Oh, there's one place that we can't really get to, but you guys have that magic weapon that bunker buster that can get down there and do it, and this is where you are, and
Well,
we're meant to watch Fox News or CNN, and you're meant to choose a side, that Hegelian, aspect again. Are you pro, uh, you know, Islamic Republic of Iran, or are you pro, State of Israel? And it's it's there's like that's a winning, there's a winning
right.
team on that. There's no good guys. Again, there's no good guys, because at the end of the day, yeah, they are Mohammedans, and they are they don't do good things at times, but who does? Certainly not us, certainly not
Yeah.
Israel. So, like, why are we pretending that they're the only bad guys around? And it's really, really interesting. And
Well, England just legalized abortion up till birth, so maybe they should be nuked. I don't know. I mean, if anyone actually deserves it, I'm kidding, obviously, but it is. I mean, if you're just looking at the morality of the situation, but what I don't understand, Father, is that, like, I get the motivation for Israel. Like, it makes sense that, again, we'll get into the creepier side of it later. But even if you're just looking at, like, Netanyahu is almost surely going to be arrested once he is kicked out of his position. Like, he's in trouble, like big trouble for war crimes and whatnot. So he is doing everything he can just to hold on to power. And so it makes sense for him to just literally live out his life as the leader, because of prolonging wars and keeping him in that spot. So just for him, that makes sense. You have the religious wars, which also makes some sense. And then again, you also have, you have the oil and just the kind of the geopolitical side of it. But I don't really get from America, because I think Americans, at least the polls I've seen, it's something like 80% are against any type of war with Iran. So if that's the case, what does Trump have to win here? Like, what is it? Just because is he really owned by Israel? I mean, I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that it's like two different things, like owned or controlled. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is, like, to be owned is to say that everything he does is dictated by Israel. And I don't think that you can be really truly saying that about any person, but to be influenced and controlled, absolutely. He is probably one of the most Zionistic presidents that we've had, and that's saying a lot, because we've had a lot of them. But it's, you look at it, it's like, he's the only one that moved our embassy to Jerusalem. He's the one whose daughter, who was nominally Christian, became a Jewess and married a Jew who was connected to the state of Israel and everything like that. He's the one that has always, it's like he's the things that he has said about certain aspects of like world diplomacy and finance and everything is almost always sort of like, oh, but then Netanyahu gives calls or flies across and talks and things change. And, so there's a lot to be unpacked there, but it's also more so that we have to understand that, and so as to why, I think that's the $1 million question. I think to say that the United States is very much influenced by this idea that we have to support Israel is sort of like, and this group of politicians, as like any other, is made to do so. I think that is empirically true. Like, there's no question that it's like that rhetoric of, oh, they're our greatest allies in the Middle East, and I think to myself, I can't name one thing that they have benefited us for doing. The only thing you can think of is that they allow us to have strategic placement for the military things, and that is only to serve the purpose of continuing to help fight their wars. So to me, I really struggle to find anything that is like this is a mutual relationship.
And they spy on us the third most of anyone else, and that's known. That this came up in an interview with Ted Cruz did with Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson said, "Hey, look, I think it's China, Russia, and then Israel spy on us the most, and that's a known thing." And so Tucker asked, Ted Cruz, and he's like, "So why is it that we're giving money to Israel that they're using to actually spy on us?" And and we know, and you talk about being owned or whatnot. I mean, it would make sense for sure if Mossad, the CIA of Israel, it has dirt on a lot of these people. I'm not saying that's the case, but it would make sense for at least some of them. And so, but it's a bizarre thing that's just, they're not really our allies. They're spying on us. They don't do anything for us. And yet you hear over and over and over, they are our greatest ally. Why?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like you look at it, and again, that's the speculative part, right? Like, is like, what kind of dirt do they have? Well, I mean, how much evidence out there is there that the people like Epstein were tied to the Mossad,
a ton of evidence,
and operating in that way. And it's like, and then you look at it and go like, oh, well, that was one of like the key promises that first day the list from Epstein would come out, and look, I don't really care because of the fact that I presume that most of those people are probably on that list, and because that's just the way those creatures are. But at the same time, it's what is preventing you from releasing it? Obviously, at this point, it's a gross elephant in the room, and what we are moving towards, and what is tied into this, is that it is that setup. What is certainly happening as part of this is like setting up a new order of the world, which is going to end up being that reshuffling. It's why you see all that's transpiring since that became blatantly obvious since 2020, right? Like I feel like we're in 2020 almost again. We're like one pandemic away from 2020 again. We have all the civil unrest in the streets, the riots, the burning of cop cars, the financial crises again, the wars starting back, like all those things, which sort of back same cast and characters all over again as 2020. And so I think it's part of this dynamic sort of shift into what's coming down the pike between AI and cryptocurrency, moving all of these things forward. And who's going to be a central figure in that? Well, it's going to be, Israel. I mean, they're the ones, they and their like their outstretched arms of people in different countries. It's that controlling of the financial sector, controlling of so much in the tech sector, and these things of, like the the honey traps of Epstein aren't going to necessarily even need to exist anymore, because it's all going to be documented on your electronics that they are going to be able to monitor and keep track of. Like, they'll see every single website search that you do moving forward in the future, and they'll have all that they need to spring those traps on people. And so, again, you get into the speculative, and then I sit there and I think, I was saying this to I was actually talking with Dr. Dan today. I was telling him I was doing the show, and Dr. Dan Stanislavski, and I was saying to him, I don't know what the end game is. I don't know what the purpose of it all is, what the ultimate aim is here. But I said it certainly has the feel of like the need of bending the knee, or the need of offering a grain of incense, because I said, like, Trump has been sort of like shifting grass the entire time that he's been in like public office, where like he can't stick to anything solid. But there's three things that he's always had like a strong rhetoric on, which is, immigration, that he wants to control immigration across the border and, remove illegal aliens. Two was support for Israel, this unwavering support for Israel. And three was that he wanted peace, that he doesn't want more continued wars and everything. And this just has the feel of, you claim to be our best friend, you claim to be the most pro-Israel president out there. How pro-Israel are you? Are you willing to compromise principle number 3 in order to support principle number 2? We don't need you to necessarily go full on invasion here, but a couple bombs, a little bit of direct action, and then we'll let you back out the door again, and we'll change the regime in Iran. And I don't know, again, speculative, don't know it for sure, but it just has that flavor to it that you need to be guilty with us in this. And it's almost, it makes me wonder, like, okay, if you're going to switch the finances from fiat currency to cryptocurrency in the not too distant future, and we are in massive debt and financial, difficulties, do you allow it to, is it part of like, we'll help you get out of that if you, kind of give us that? Again, that is like, nobody should take that as gospel truth in any way, shape, or form, or fact. It's just pure speculative, but it is interesting. But I do think it probably, merits, though, exploring the idea, why? How do we end up in this position where we're always, the default mode is, well, let's help Israel, right? Like, I don't, like, that is, I think, and I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially, Father, when this is just on the back of Israel bombing the heck out of Palestine and killing innocent people over and over. I mean, it's like, and the world sees that. America sees that. The what do you say? The appreciation, the love of Israel has dipped hard, real hard in America and throughout the West. And so that's what's so bizarre about this is like, hey, 2 years ago, or say after October 7th, it could have been like, you would have had everyone on, with you. You could have gone and bombed Iran, no problem at all. I mean, I'm not saying morally or anything. I'm just saying with people's support.
Sure.
But now, no, there's no way. And people are totally turned off to the whole thing. I mean, you see on the internet, you see people like Bernie Sanders and Tucker Carlson come together for a group hug and saying, hey, look, we agree on this. This is weird. This is a big problem. It does not benefit America's interests, and yet somehow we're on the doorstep of getting involved in this. It's weird.
And the people that have been like your normal war fighters are figuring it out too a little bit. Like, I saw like something a tweet from Sean Ryan that said it's essentially like, I've fought in enough pointless wars. I think I'll sit this one out. And and then he followed it up with another one saying, and most guys who fought in the same wars I did feel the same way, and it's but that's kind of the devious nastiness of it, though, is that you end up having the I mean, that's the master plan of it all, is that you have the weak, sort of like futile government that nobody wants to be part of being a soldier for, you, because it's all woke ideology and everything like that under Biden. And then you bring in, your Pete Hegseth, and look, I have "We the People" tattooed across my arm, and I wave a flag, and I'm a warrior, and all this type of stuff. Okay, here you are. Oh, recruitment goes through the roof. Now we start, the next war, and you already signed on the dotted line. Good luck getting out of
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
And that's, you're stuck now, and off to the Middle East, to the sandbox again, to fight for the same people all over again.
Oh, and that's
And
what,
so,
and you see these old senators and presidents, they're sending young people away to fight their own battles, and that's obviously
yeah,
happened for forever, since the beginning of man practically. And but it's a horrible tragedy when you think of that, and also the innocent life that's getting killed. I work with people here from Ukraine, and for us it's just a war is totally an idea. It's not reality. It's just an idea. It's like something you hear about or you watch a movie
yeah,
about. But you talk with someone who actually she visited Ukraine, and she has I think a 4 or 5 year old grandchild, and the grandchild came and told her when she came in, she's like, "Hey, here, grandma, here's where we hide when the bombs start falling."
yeah,
That's
yeah,
like a 5 year old kid. I mean, this is the
yeah,
reality of war. War is awful, and I
yeah.
think
That's
again
then
that's what's so crazy when you see these warmongers who are just like, yeah, what's his name, Graham,
Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, and just like,
Yeah,
let's bomb him every chance he gets. Let's start a war with somebody. It's
yeah.
disgusting. It's awful.
Oh yeah, and that's how you know that this thing is all completely, you know, garbage. I mean,
Yeah,
because it's the same war hawks that come back, that dust themselves back off again. It's your Ted Cruz's, it's your Lindsey Graham's, it's your, Sean Hannity's, and your, Levine's, and your, like, insert all these other, it's the same awful people that dust themselves off and come out and try to moral, like, grandstand about, oh, this is what we got to do now. I mean, that's why I thought, I only saw the small little clip of Tucker sort of like dismantling Ted
yeah.
Cruz, so like not
That's all
even
I've seen
knowing
too. Yeah,
how many people are there. I'm just like, oh my goodness, but that's the thing. He doesn't care. He literally does. Ted Cruz does not care. He just knows war is good, and this is, we bomb brown people. This is what we do,
yeah.
and this is going to be awesome. And it's the same old thing. But again, where does that come from?
Hmm.
Well, we have to understand that this, sort of like it is deeply connected to America, that mindset, because it's this sort of like pro state of Israel, right of the Jews to be there, and and everything. It's very it's actually like a really new concept, and it's ultimately at its end, it's obviously comes from the Jews, but it comes to influence Americans, particularly because of how Protestant America was, and really you can see its gaining of power influence from the introduction of the Schofield Bible.
Hmm.
So, for the listeners who don't know, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the up until that point, the idea of having you know a Jewish state in Israel, like, was just foreign. Like, it was something that some of the people who were, actually these Ashkenazi Jews that wanted to that had the Zionist movement, yeah, they promoted, but in terms of like real influence amongst the population, it was a foreign idea. And what ended up coming to be was this man, his name was Cyrus Ingerson Scoffield, and he was, uh, American, who really didn't grow up with any much religion, but then had, conversion, and then did a Bible commentary, and it was massively influential on the evangelical Protestant part of society. It became like really like the his notes on, so it was like a King James version of the Bible, but it had his notations included with it and his commentary on throughout it. And what it is, so in that he started to link like modern state of Israel to be supported with Christianity, which was such a foreign concept because obviously they, the New Testament comes along, Christ arrives. Why would he support the old law when the new law is made? And so, but he somehow tries to square the circle with that and with his commentary. But and it had things in it. It says, for a nation to commit the sin of anti-Semitism brings an inevitable judgment. That was a quote from that. And then he also has in it as a commentary for the Genesis where chapter 12 verse 3 where it says, I will bless them that bless thee. That he says in fulfillment closely related to the next clause, curse them that curseth thee, wonderfully fulfilled in the history of the dispersion. It has invariably fared ill with the people who have persecuted the Jew, well with those who have protected him. The future will still more remarkably prove this principle. So he's essentially saying that, a place like America that has found prosperity and success and everything, it is done so because we've had Jews come here and we've not, forced them into ghettos or whatever it was, actively persecuted them. So because we were nice to them, then prosperity has come to us. And if we want that to continue in the future, well, then this is what we need to. It comes because we are nice to them. It is all connected to this. There was a new form of theology that was what was called the dispensationalism, and which is it was this new Protestant theology of that God's mind changed based on how he was disposed, at that time, and so he treated like as time went on, he would change the ways that things went, and this is where we get that idea from the Scoffield Bible, that promotion of the rebuilding of the Temple of Jerusalem as part of that whole entire movement for that is going to be important. The idea that the abomination of desolation was not, that taking place in the temple part of it, that hasn't happened. That's going to happen in the new temple in Jerusalem in the center. It's where the rapture comes from. It's from this commentary. It's all these things, and what it does is very much solidify this idea that Christians are supposed to be pro-Israel, pro-Jewish state of Israel. It was said of it that where was it that there was a famous quote about it, that it was that this his name, John Hagee, the founder of the Christians United for Israel, said that 50 million evangelical Bible-believing Christians unite with 5 million American Jews standing together on behalf of Israel, and that it was the Scoffield Bible that was the effort.
And when did he write that again, Father? Approximately?
He wrote the Scoffield Bible. The Scoffield released the Bible in, I think it was like 1909 was the first publication. But it also merits to know where Scoffield came from. So the first edition was 1909, and then subsequent notes came afterwards. But so Scoffield was basically nothing, and he was a fraud and a shyster and a con artist. And so he ended up getting involved with a Jewish lawyer he fought in the Civil War, and then for the South, and then later on he got involved with a Jewish lawyer to run a railroad scam, and which led to his imprisonment for forgery. and then while he was in prison, he claims that he has a conversion, and he comes out claiming to have a doctorate in divinity when he didn't even have a college degree at all. He comes out and he deserts his wife and his daughters to run off with his mistress, and he defrauds his mother-in-law of her life savings. And the court, when granting his divorce, notes that he's not fit to look after children. And
Wow.
that's this. But all this is while he is claiming to be a Protestant minister running a church in St. Louis. And then this is the man who then writes this commentary without having any theological training, while continuing on with all of these things, and never really having any true conversion. Because what ends up happening, he ends up getting involved with the deep groups of the Freemasons, and he gets himself tied up with a New York lawyer named Untermeyer, who is an extremely powerful Zionist lawyer who was influential with President Wilson to steer his policies towards promoting Zionism. And then they, together with people like the Rockefellers and the LaGuardias and the Strausses and these other people that are part of this like cabal, they fund and promote and aid him in writing the Scoffield Bible commentary, which is with that idea of getting supposedly Christian America to back Zionist movement. And that is ultimately truly what takes place. And that's where this so much of the success of that movement comes from, is from this powerful influence on Protestant America with the Scoffield Bible, to make it seem that it is Christian to promote Zionism. And it's shaped us ever since. And so that's why. So when we sit here and we wonder why it doesn't seem that, like, all these neocons out there, that these talking heads, that they are so much in promoting Israel, it seems contrary to claiming to be Christian. Well, it's because they've infiltrated the very teaching apparatus of a lot of these Protestant Christian schools. And like I said, it's the number one for I mean, depending on like it's like one of the top biblical commentary Bibles that is out there. It is because of just how many of the evangelicals fall into that camp. You're not going to get people who are Anglican or Lutheran or Calvinist or whatever. They're not going to be utilizing this, but it's those Ted, the first like mainstream, the one who brought it to the forefront of the use of the Scoffield Bible was Billy Graham. Like that, he was a big utilizer of this, and so all of a sudden the huge tent revivals come along, and here you have it. It's this big, widespread promotion of this idea, and again, it promotes something that is so contrary to like Christian ideology, but it replaces it and gives us this when you wonder like where does the term Judeo-Christian society come from? Well, here, because how could anything be Christian? I mean, the only thing that we have in common at that point now with modern day Judaism would be at least they like the lip service towards towards the natural law of the Ten Commandments. And obviously, most modern day Israel, like the Jews, that's not really a priority anymore, seeing as they push all of the sort of like the woke and the LGBT and the whatever degradation of natural law.
That's something, Father. I don't know, but you like the tough topics, so I think that'd be a good one to cover at some point. Is the immorality of many Jews, and I think that's an interesting topic because you see it everywhere. I mean, they're the leaders in the porn industry. I mean, a lot of these things are just known. I mean, banking, immoral banking. I mean, and this has happened for a long, long time.
Hollywood,
and
music,
exactly, exactly.
Hollywood, music,
right.
everything.
Yeah, they own the rappers.
All that.
I mean, that's not a secret. They own these rap musicians, and so they're trying to corrupt the youth
politics
of black folks. Yeah, exactly. So that would be let's save that for some other time, Father, if you're willing, because I think we may get banned from YouTube, but I think it's an interesting question of why is it that their belief system allows them to do that. And I'd be sincerely curious. I mean, I've heard somewhere that part of it is the whole they really believe that the ends justify the means, and I don't know why, because obviously I don't think it's in the Bible.
Yeah, I think well, the whole entire aspect of it really comes down to well, I mean, I shouldn't say it really comes down to, but it should be very much noted that the idea of calling them Jews is just mistaken to begin with, because it makes us think that there is a connection with God and His and truth. You know what I mean? That has come down to us, but. And so like people will feel like, oh well, here he goes talking about like, are they really Jews, or are they like Semitic people that are actually have like the blood of those things? And it's like that's less important to me than the idea of what they actually are, which is to say these aren't the children of God. These are the continuation of the Pharisees. That is what we have here. These are the people who hate God, hate Christ. They and want to destroy things that reflect Christ. And I remember seeing something that was something like 80% of modern day people who say that they are Jews are atheists. And so it has nothing to do with God. It has so much to do with this, with just I don't know, like it really has to do with Satan. You know what I mean? Like that's ultimately at the end of it. They are the children of Satan. As as it became, they reject God. They reject Christ. They become anti-Christ. And when you think about 2,000 years of obstinacy in that, it's going to degrade down to such a level that is really, really, really appalling and astounding. And so I don't think that can just be dismissed or like sort of like thought of contrary. It's like, I mean, it is beyond ignorance. It is true, like rejection there. I mean, how many times all you have to do is watch videos of them spitting on Christians in the Holy Land, or throwing rocks at them, or doing things like that to show how they really feel. And then you take it out of Israel, where they are the majority, and you bring it to some place where they're in the minority. Well, they can't just go around spitting on people on the street, because there's going to be repercussions for that. So what do? They infiltrate into the interior and corrupt from the inside, so that we can't spit on you on the street, but we'll do it by sabotaging everything that you hold strong to. So
well, and I mean, yeah, speaking of that, I think again, you're talking about the things that they're part of, that they're certainly part of a lot of the secret societies of Freemasonry. I mean, a lot of this was started and very much operated by these people. It's just, again, it's just true. I know people don't want to hear it. YouTube's not going to want to hear it, but tell me I'm wrong. Someone, please, I would love
Yeah.
a fact checker to come tell me that that's not true. And so it's again, it's not saying that every one of these people is evil, but boy, they have a trend, that
No,
is
well,
not
I
a good
mean,
one.
that's what I always say. It's we're not. It's not when talking about these things. We have to divorce ourselves from the idea that uh, nobody's talking about the guy who makes bagels down the street. I mean, that that's not who we're talking about here.
Right.
We're talking about people of influence and people of power. Just like when our Lord was around and so many had like in the Pharisees had again and again and again rejected him, and he referred to them as whited sepulchres, that on the outside all shiny and new, but on the inside filled with dead man's bones, and beat them out of the temple with knotted whips, and did all of those things. He wasn't talking about everybody. He was talking about the Pharisees. He was talking about those who were in the positions of power, and that trend still continues to this day. That's what you see. Is that again? We're not talking about the guy running the delicatessen. We're talking about the people that actually are movers and shakers and in controlling society, and because that is their God, and that was their God 2,000 years ago. That's why they rejected Christ. They didn't want to relinquish their power, influence, and control, and they wanted their own empire, and they wanted the restoration of the Holy Land then, and that's what they want now. And so they wanted the kingdom of God on earth for the Jewish people, and that's what we see a continuation of. In that way, it's the Pharisaical mindset. And that is, like you said, I think there is that aspect of ends justifying the mean. How many people we can get in control and power? How many industries and areas of influence can we actually, have this on? And when we do that, like that's going to be, we don't have to have the greatest population of people, we just have to have them placed in the right places. And then if it all ends up being ends justifying the means, they also don't look at the non-Jews, they don't look at us as as truly human. They were sort of subhuman. That's why they call us the goyim, which is to say cattle. And so it's, that's the way to look at us. They look at us as cattle. And again, so those people in power, that's the way they do that, is to put them in. It's why you don't see. It's like, how many Jewish construction workers do you have? Well, not very many. Why? Because they're not going to control anything in there. They'll run a major, building development company, because now they can control a huge sector of finance in major cities, but they're not building houses in rural Nebraska, because they don't care about that. They're not worried about that. And so so you're going to find them in medicine, you're going to find them in law, you're going to find them in politics, you're going to find them in entertainment, you're going to find them in all of these things, that where they can have influence, that's where you're going to see them, because those are the things that actually, give more bang for the buck as to what they can get you to. So,
Well, and historically, they've been run out of country after country, and it always, again, it always comes back to, you always hear about, Germany in the 1930s and 40s. That's not the first or last time, guys. It had, or maybe it's the last, but it's happened all throughout history. I mean, the Romans, the Greeks, they all tried to kick him out because different reasons. They're a very kind of elitist group. They're very small,
but they were not held to any morality. That was the thing too. That they were really, that was when you see like the Spanish Inquisition, for instance. What was a large part of the Spanish Inquisition, but finding Jews that were not, they weren't inquisiting like again, like the average like Jewish person that was running a bakery, that they didn't, that person wasn't called before people. It was the ones who subverted they called the Moranos, that they tried to pretend to be Christians in order to subvert their way into the church and into and to undermine it from the inside. And so they were brought in front of the Inquisition to find out if they were actually Christians, or were they pretending to be Christians because in reality they were not. And so this is not this idea of being shady and lying and devious and everything like that. It is a trending pattern for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. And like you said, it's you can only, how many times can you do something wrong before like, how many people can say like, oh man, these people are just a problem, before, and you stop saying, well, it's their fault and it's their fault and it's their fault. Eventually you have to look at the mirror and say, maybe it's my fault, maybe we screwed up. And that's what they have, but they will not, of course, do that. And yeah, it's just a matter of time until you get another. I mean, I think we're moving in that direction to some degree in society now. Like you said at the beginning of this, it's more and more, well, like it's less and less taboo to actually point out the things that we talk about now. Where you go, hey, you know what? There's something seriously wrong here. Why are we allowing this to be? And so, it'll be interesting to see what comes of all this. In the meantime, I think the most important thing with it is, for us, is to not allow it to distract us. It is, we know what's going on, but we should not allow it to be this consuming thing, because soon enough, if we do, then we are listening to too much of the propaganda again, because war is sort of fantastical, right? It's awful, but it's exciting. And so it easily fills up all of the headlines. And then it easily fills up all of our time slots. And then we start neglecting our own spiritual lives. We start forgetting what was the most important way to procure peace. It's through invoking the Prince of Peace. It's it is. I mean, tomorrow is Corpus Christi. I mean, what better thing to do than to actually take petition for true, actual peace to the one true God, and put it before Him, and leave these things of false Christianity and the influences that come from them behind, or those who look to subvert and do evil. We know the actual end of the book, which is to say that they do not triumph, and that God ultimately wins. And so we want to make sure we keep that peace of soul, peace of heart. Don't leave these things out on the peripheries, and also we don't want it to act as a distraction from what other things might come down the pike later on, that are in the process of doing so, because it's never as simple as it seems, where it's just, oh, there's a war going on and these people are doing bad things and we should, which team do we fall on? It's really that, it's like a magic trick. Like, look over here while the other hand does something different. And so you don't want to miss out on that. You don't want to find yourself paying attention to rockets landing someplace 6,000 miles away from where you live, to then miss on, I don't know, whatever massive societal change comes through that is detrimental, that takes you by surprise, or and those type of things. So we want to be, again, just really placing ourselves before the one source of ultimate truth that we have, which is God, and putting our trust in Him. And so that's, I think that's an important aspect of this all. It's interesting to talk about. It's interesting to explore. It's good history to know, it's good for us to sort of have our eyes more open to understand, like, to just not trust any of this stuff, because that keeps us from choosing a team that on a losing proposition, whichever team you choose on. When it's all bad guys, don't choose a bad guy. But at the same time, it's it should have just this kind of like proper slot to like go away and say, all right, I've listened to this 1 hour program with Kevin and Father McKenna, and now I'll go and do some spiritual reading or something, something where do some prayers and do something actually productive with the, towards that end, rather than turning on the news afterwards and saying like, what else is going to get bombed today? So,
amen to that, Father. No, I think absolutely well said. But I think, as you said, I hope it's also beneficial that people learned a little bit more. I had heard of the Scoffield Bible. I did not know it was connected with the whole Christian Zionism, that was really good info. And now I know more about the topic, which really actually does help. It makes a lot of sense. I'd really wondered, like, what is this about? And now I know. So, Father, we always appreciate having you on, always getting some of your knowledge and wisdom. And hopefully maybe next time we'll have a slightly less I don't know, political.
There's zero chance this even touches YouTube, is there? This goes straight to Rumble.
Though, Father, as you said, though, I mean, I've been listening to podcasts, and it's getting a lot easier to be able to publish this type of stuff. I think YouTube just understands you can't stop it all. So I think they just said, okay, I think we'll see. We'll throw it out there and excuse me, and we'll see. They might, give us a slap on the wrist,
Strike.
But we'll try it anyway. We don't have any strikes right now, so we have a little wiggle room. We'll give it a shot. But yeah, I mean, again, I think it was good information, and hopefully everyone appreciated it as well as I did. If you did appreciate it, please like, share, subscribe, comment, hit that bell. If you hit the bell, that means that you'll make sure that you don't miss any of our videos. We have a live show coming up planned on Friday at, let me think, it'd be, I think, 3 p.m. Eastern time, with Dr. Peter Hoynofsky of Sister Lucy Truth, who has some pretty interesting new evidence and stories about his research into the two Sister Lucy. So that should be really good live show. So be sure to be there so you can ask him your questions this Friday. And I think it's at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We'll throw it up, throw up a premiere on YouTube so you guys won't miss out. But make sure you hit that bell so that you do not miss any of the videos. We surely will hope to have Father McKenna on again soon. And you can support Father and St. Gertrude the Great Church at sgg.org. Go over and check out all the things that they're doing, and you can donate there as well. And Father, until next time, thank you very much again, and God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you.